TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Around this period of time, WWE was starting to fire pretty much on all cylinders. What was your response when they sent DX to Nitro and tried to invade with the tank?
I get asked that question a lot, and I never really know how to answer because I can't tell you how I felt at that moment.
Right.
I think I might have been stunned, which is probably why I can't remember it. Shortly afterwards, I was pissed off, but I was pissed off that I wasn't thinking on my feet because if I would have let them in and we would have called their bluff, it would have been A, some of the best television anybody's ever seen, and B, it would have taken the steam right out of everything they did. But I didn't have the time to think about it. Had I had about 5 more minutes of notice, I probably would have got there because I like to fight anyway. I don't mean physically, but I mean I like that kind of confrontation anyway. But I didn't. It just caught me flat-footed.
Turner ad execs wanted WCW to focus on children and families, and in your book, I think you wrote that that's when you knew it was going to hurt you. And years later, WWE was able to rebrand themselves successfully as a family company. Why do you think WCW couldn't or wouldn't be successful under their ethics?
Okay, you're merging a lot of things that are not a lot, but you're merging a few things that were happening simultaneously. When again, we're going back to that 1999 time now, late '98, when Nitro's successful. We have a formula. We're targeting 18 to 34-year-old men. We're reality-based, not so kiddie-friendly television. WWE is on our heels. They learn from us. They're replicating our formula, and they're starting to get even more aggressive with it. Now we get a phone call from a group of ad people that say, I know, well, they didn't even say this. We want you to change your formula. Okay. So I'm fighting for 1834s. It's working. It's been working. We're still profitable, by the way. We're getting kicked around a little bit. And now all of a sudden you want me to change it back to a formula that I know we're going to lose 75% of our audience?
Do you feel the company had just gone too far down the road to turn around?
Well, I knew then I was in deep shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've written about it and I've talked about it before. I knew that was the beginning of the end.
Talk about the days leading up to you being sent home by Dr. Harvey Schiller and the moment you were told you were being removed from power.
Yeah, it was...
Did you feel forced out?
No, I was... It's really funny. And it's all tied together. The night it happened on a Friday. It was actually September 10th, I believe, of 1999. That Thursday evening, I was in my office and I had it up to here. I wanted to quit in August of '98. So when I first started seeing the handwriting on the wall, and that's the time I regret not walking away when I could have. And I stuck it out. By September of '99, on that Thursday, September 9th, I was in my office and I was talking to a guy who was my controller at the time, who I thought was a friend. It was about 8 o'clock at night. And I had it. And I'm not going to even mention his name. I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm out of here. And it was probably exhaustion and just frustration. I was pissed off. And, he tried to talk me out of it. But I was, in that moment, I was pretty determined that that's what I was going to do. And by the time I got home, I was like, just suck it up. Don't be a bitch. Just suck it up. Figure it out. So when I got the call Friday morning, it was from, I think I was on my way to work or early Friday morning. I got the call from Harvey. He said, Eric, you need to be in my office, 9 o'clock. Harvey had never asked me to be in his office like that.
Right.
So I knew something was up. I said, all right, Harvey, I'm on my way in. I'll see you at 9. I went up to his office and when I walked in, and he was very, I don't even know how to describe it. He was not happy. He wasn't angry, okay, but he was very sad, for lack of a better term. He said, Eric, I need to ask you to go home. I said, Harvey, I can't go home. I got a pay-per-view on Sunday. No, you don't. Didn't sink in immediately. I thought he was just trying to be a friend because we had that, I don't want to say mentor, father-son thing because we weren't that close. But I knew he had my back. He always had my back. And he was telling me I didn't have an option, but he was doing it in the most kind, gentle way he could. And then it sunk in. He said, Eric, you got to trust me. Just go home, get some rest. Just go home and get some rest. We'll talk. So I went home, and it sunk in as I was driving home. I got home probably about 10:15 in the morning. I had my own plane at the time. I was in my plane by 11 a.m. flying out to Wyoming to go fishing.
I was going to ask you. Okay.
I just kind of threw in the towel.
How do you go mentally from the gear of trying to run a company back to its former success to suddenly having no responsibility for it and going fishing?
It was a pretty easy transition. You know, if you would have, or if one would have been in my shoes and had been going through what I was going through, and part of it was just my lack of understanding. You know, I understand it now because now I can look back. Oh, of course, that's what was going on. Because now I have more information. Back then, a lot of it was just like, what in the hell? There were so many giant moving pieces that were going on that at that time I didn't understand or comprehend. That it was as much, you know, my disappointment in myself for not being able to succeed and maintain my success. It was probably part of my ego. It was the pressure and the workload. And a lot of it was just not understanding how the fuck this could be happening.
What are your thoughts on Bill Bush following you as the head of the company?
It was a joke. It was comical.
From the period that you left the company until you came back, how long was that? How long were you sitting out for?
How long? I think I came back sometime in January or February.
What was your reaction when they called you to come back?
There was a lot, there were different emotions. I'm not going to lie. There was a little bit of I told you so going on. Because I knew nobody in that company at that time really had any idea what they were doing from the television side or from the creative side of the wrestling business side. So there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of trepidation. There was a little bit of, after I had been away from the corporate side of it for as long as I was and the chaos of that corporate, and I'd love to be in a great corporate environment again, but that was not AOL Time Warner was not a great corporate environment. I was pretty determined that I didn't want to go back into the same fire pit that I just came out of. So if I was going to go back, I wanted to go back under different conditions so that A, I could enjoy it and have a chance to be successful at it, and B, so I didn't take the abuse.
Compare the WCW locker room when you were there, when you were sent home, and when you came back. How was the locker room? Any different?
Well, of course it was. We went from, things were pretty chaotic by the time I left, but I think it was even more so by that time because the overall situation had gotten worse. So there was more stress, there was more insecurity, there was more doubt.
What are your memories of rebooting WCW and stripping every one of the titles in hindsight?
I still think it was a good idea. It may not have been executed well, but you've got to, you have to, we were struggling to find a way to re-energize and reboot and do something drastic that would kind of clean the table and reset from all the chaos that had happened and transpired for the 6 months or year prior. So I don't think that it was a horrible idea under the circumstances.
TitleMatchNetwork.com